All right, three, two, and one, and here we go. We have YouTube and Twitter via Periscope, and now Facebook has finally jumped into the stream as well. Welcome, one and all, to another Tuesday night interview session. You know me, I'm Andrew, being joined as always by the lovely Nikki. So say hi, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki.
And in case you haven't worked it out or been paying attention to the posts leading up to this one, we have a very, very special guest with us tonight. It's not often we get to talk to one of the big guys in the scene, and this is Mark Alexander-Erber, president and founder of Golden Robot Records. How are you, mate?
Good, man. How are you? Nikki, how are you?
I'm awesome. I'm freaking excited to talk to you, buddy. Like, I am seriously excited.
Well, don't get too excited.
Did I just get set up for a fall?
And you know that I'm putting it out there that I had my first COVID shot yesterday, so I'm feeling like dog shit. But it's a necessity because we want to travel and we want to get out of here. So I had it yesterday, so I'm not feeling 100%. But you guys are important to me, and I appreciate that you support the scene here in Oz, and so I didn't want to cancel on you.
Beautiful. Appreciate you taking the time to do it tonight too. I know how busy you are in general, so making the time even when you're not feeling that great is even more appreciated. So thank you once again for joining us tonight. Now, in the description for those watching along at home, we have links and all the sort of stuff you're going to need to follow Golden Robot Records across all of their social media platforms, including their Spotify profile. Our links are in there as well, but please make sure you follow Golden Robot. Find all those links in the description. Get on your bike. You know what to do. Give them a follow because there's a lot of good things coming out from their camp, and there's much more to come in the very near future. We've already got some comments coming in, which is awesome. So this is a little run test for bringing things up on screen. Sorry, Darren, one of our regulars, he's gone on you, Mark. You're doing great things. Loving the robot rants as well. So that's already getting some nice feedback coming into the chat tonight. So, Nikki, if you're all set, we will start throwing to you with some questions. So off you go.
Well, before we begin with the formalities, let me extend you a belated happy birthday, Mark, for the 21st.
Thank
you. Hope you had a amazing day.
Yeah, I had a good birthday. I turned 73, so I look pretty good.
You look fucking amazing, man.
73 and built like an ox. Yeah, I was 53 on Friday, so yeah, I feel good. I mean, I feel like shit because of the COVID shot, and because I'm over 50, I had to have that AstraZeneca one.
Yeah, right.
But you know, I implore everyone that's out there to get the shot. Make sure you get your shot because even if you don't believe in it, it helps everybody. So whether you're traveling or not, I think it's good. It's good for Australia. But yes, I had a good birthday. Thank you very much.
Awesome. For anyone who's watching tonight that might not be quite across who you are and what you do, let's start with a little bit of an introduction about your fine self and how you came to be the founder and CEO of an absolutely fucking thumping thing. I want to say Golden Robot Records, but you know what? It's really the entertainment group. Let's talk about you, your journey, and what you've got now.
How far you want me to go back?
I don't know. We've got an hour, but I'd be prepared to make an exception for you, I reckon.
Okay. Well, let's not go back too far. Look, I've always been an entrepreneur. I used to own a lot of pubs. And when I had those pubs, we always dealt with music. We were always bringing bands out, and I had a pub in Sydney called the Iron Duke, which was 1997 to about 1999, which still today is still talked about. We really did an incredible job with that pub. It was just something so different. We had a lot of hardcore and punk, and I brought out the Deftones and the Helicopters and Fu Manchu and Magic Dirt, and I think Silverchair played there on and off night. It was Eskimo Joe got their start there on a Wednesday night. So I always loved music, and you walked in there and it had like a big Cramps poster, or it had whatever it was. It was just it was like the CBGBs of Sydney.
Yeah, awesome.
So that's sort of where I started. I mean, before that, I did 15 years for the Regent, which was now the Four Seasons in Sydney. So I always had a hospitality background, and I think that's helped me throughout my career to be able to learn how to deal with people, et cetera, et cetera. But I think, after the Iron Duke, then I went in and we ended up with quite a big chain of hotels. I got out of that in about 2008. There was articles in the paper that some of it was good and some of it was bad. It was, at the end of the day, it actually turned out all right. After that, I just invested in things for about 10 years. But the one thing that's been in my life the whole way, and what's been a theme in my life, has been music. Music's always been right down the center of my life, whether it's through family things, whether my parents getting divorced in 1980. I remember playing Back in Black 1,000 times on a little stereo. I was only 13. Or other pivotal moments in my life, I can always relate it back to a particular song or particular album that came out, etc. So music's always been there, and everything to me, people know me, everything to me starts and ends with Led Zeppelin. So I've always been a massive Zeppelin fan. And after I got out of the pubs and sold it and sort of semi-retired for a while, I spent many years, going to Europe and America, etc., and buying first pressings of Zeppelin and the Stones and the Who, and like Greek pressings and Korean pressings and Japanese pressings. It's just awesome, absolutely awesome. So that sort of cruised along for a while, and then dabbled in a few things. And then my son, who was born in about 2003, he ended up starting drums at about 4 or 5, and he quickly became a little prodigy. He hates the title, but he did. He became a prodigy, and or was a prodigy, and he ended up at age 9 on Australia's Got Talent. And he was that little blonde kid when Kyle Sandilands was on it, and Danny Minogue, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So it was the cool year. It was the cool time. I think Channel 7 had it, and he nearly won that. His backing band, funny enough, was the rhythm section from the Preachers. Who actually
mind. Is this at 9 years old?
What was that fell off the door behind you? Was that
that was my Babes scarf. The Babes are a band from Adelaide. We love you, Monty. It's all good.
Okay, but I think it's got a life to it.
I know, right?
Came alive. If it jumps back up, then we're going to start worrying.
I'm recording.
No, instead.
So anyway, Jagger went on that, nearly won it, popped out the other end, and I thought, fuck, what do we do with this kid? And being the entrepreneur, I didn't want him to end up being a novelty, which so many of those young kids become novelties. And so we ended up putting him in the studio. I can't remember how it exactly happened, but I was looking for Steve Albini, the famous producer. I thought I'll put Jack, my son, in the studio with Steve Albini. But I got mixed up and confused, and I ended up hooking up with Steve Balby.
I know who you're talking about. All right.
Right? Steve X Noiseworks.
Here we go.
Electric Hippie. So Steve Balby, another guy who was in Pearls and Swine, and he's got a couple of bands in Melbourne, Crazy Mark Ward, who's an incredible guitarist. So Steve and Mark and Jagger, who was 10 at the time, went into a studio in Sydney and made this incredible album. They called the band Moon, and the album was called The Orbiter. And I have to say to you, it's one of the best rock albums ever. It is an incredible album. So Steve and Mark and Jagger made this album. When they came out of the studio, I thought, well, fuck, what am I going to do with this album? So I shopped it around America, and I shopped it around Australia, and nobody was interested. Nobody gave two shits about rock and roll. So I ended up thinking, fuck, I'm going to do this myself. So the entrepreneurial light went off, and I was sitting there in the studio, and I was thinking, what am I going to call this thing? And when the boys came out of the studio, I gave them all a little gift. I gave them all a little golden robot.
Yeah.
Exactly that guy. And that's how Golden Robot started, because I thought, I'll call it Golden Robot Records. So that's how it started. So that was in about 2015. And we put out the album Moon. Moon was Golden Robot. I think it's GRR00001. That was the first album we ever did.
That's fucking awesome. And it's your son's record.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. I was not expecting that story at all.
Yeah, it was a real family orientated start. So long story short, 2015 we sort of found our feet here. And look, if anyone knows me, I don't do things in halves. You know, when we had the pubs, I didn't want one pub. We had to have a chain of pubs. And it was the same with this. If I'm going to do this, I'm going to set it up properly. So we ended up getting some local distribution. I think it was with MGM, and we employed a PR person. And then I just went around and started knocking on doors and, you know, signed the Super Jesus. And Angry Anderson was about to retire and go up the North Coast. And I grabbed him and said, "No, let's do a couple of albums together and let's go through some old things and put some live albums out." And we subsequently did 4 albums together. So we had Rose Tattoo and Super Jesus, and we went to sign the Choir Boys. We didn't do anything with them, but we signed them. Then we did local bands, and it was great. We had a really great. We did My Sex. We did an album with My Sex with Balby singing, their first album ever. Post everything that they were going through. So it was a really great mix, and, you know, Nick Barker came on board, and et cetera, et cetera. And then that turned into things like Steve Kilby doing a solo album, the Horsehead reunion that we put together, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a really, really cool start. And we got together. When was that, mate? When we were down in Melbourne?
It was, so 2018 thereabouts, from memory.
Yeah,
it was April 2018. Yeah.
Yeah, well, 2018. I reckon it was before that, mate. I reckon it was 17.
Maybe anyway. 2017.
Yeah. So we were getting a good vibe. I've always been a really good brander. I know how to brand things. So it was always about branding and marketing, et cetera, et cetera. And I always knew that there it is, the little logo was always going to mean something. So from there, I ended up traveling to the States a lot. And I ended up getting through Tracy Guns, who I met, and now we've signed the other LA Guns. But through Tracy, he introduced me to a couple of people, and a couple of those people I worked with for quite a few years. And we ended up going, look, how, you know, a few particular people in LA sat me down and said, well, how fucking crazy are you that you want to do this? And I went, no, I'm off my tree. I want to do this and go as hard as possible. So, you know, we talked about the cost of it all. We talked about where we were going to be in 5 years. And we talked about, you know, again, are you that crazy to even contemplate taking the world on with a label? And I went, yeah, fuck yeah, let's do this. Rock and roll is everything. At that point, nobody really, you know, everyone says rock and roll's dead. It's never been dead. It just sometimes goes a bit more underground than it ever has. So we put together some shit hot distribution around the world. You know, there's, you know, you Believe is here in Australia and people deal with soul food, but I was one of the only companies in the early days to actually get a deal straight out of Germany, and I've still got the deal. So our main distribution hub is Europe, which gave me an in into Europe straight away. And then we put the rest of the distribution across the world. We put our PR and marketing teams in, and then I went out after bands, and, you know, we had to get the checkbook out, and we went hard, and we were signing a lot of bands. Still the bands we've got today, you know, Gilby Clark and LA Guns and Jefferson Starship and Vanilla Fudge, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, we signed Skid Row and King's X and all those in the beginning, and John Sykes, and there's stories behind all of them, why those albums, one of them will come out on Golden Robot, why the other two aren't coming out on Golden Robot. And, you know, I went through many good things. I went through some horrific things where we got ripped off for $50,000 US because a manager said that he represented a band and he never did. And so I learned in that early days what not to do in this particular circumstance. So I thought, well, that 50 grand that we lost might save us $1 million down the road. You know, did we overpay for certain deals? We did. Were we undercapitalized in the beginning? 1,000%. Were we learning as we were going? Yes. But it came together. It really came together. And being an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter what you go through. It doesn't matter who's negative, who's positive. You always get up the next day, you dust yourself off and you go, fuck, I'm back into this. And you're excited to do it. So that was sort of really the essence of how it started and where it went. And if I look at where we are now, there's some people that have never heard of us. And look, they've heard of us in America and Europe. We're actually quite well known. In Australia, not as many, because I've kept my head down here. I've been through the tall poppy syndrome here, and it's not a nice thing. And you just couldn't be fucked with it. I'm too old for it now. And so you keep your head down. However, the people that haven't heard of us and then go and look at my roster and they go, fuck, Hurricane number 1. I remember they were as big as Oasis or Vanilla Fudge or Phil X, who's Bon Jovi's guitarist, or Hardcore Superstar or whatever. I love that band.
You got Little Caesar, man. I fucking love them.
Yeah. And you look at these bands on the roster and people go, where the fuck did you guys come from? Like, how did this happen without us, without anyone knowing about it? And I quite like that. And I quite like the fact that we've taken that sort of, we haven't sort of shouted from the rooftops, oh, we're here, have a look at us. I was like that probably in the old days with the pub company. I was definitely like that, but not these days. I let the music do the talking. I let the artist roster do the talking. And I think that the Australian music scene needs a good shake-up. It's certainly there's some things that go on that need to be shook up here. Certainly in radio. Radio is a fucking disgrace here. It's just, I mean, I read the other day on one of these blogs that I won't say who or how, someone resigned from a position in a top network. And I thought, oh, fuck, thank God for that. Maybe they'll play something other than the Choir Boys. And I love the Choir Boys, but I don't need to fucking hear it all the time. I got a 1,000 Australian bands that should be up there as well. And it's I mean, we got Ashen Moon. This is how shit the scene is here with radio. We got Ashen Moon, and I implore anybody that loved In Excess or Duke Cartel, because Gary Beers from In Excess is in this band, Toby Rand is singing, Jimmy Curry on guitars. These guys have spent a fortune on this album in Gary's studio, and it is a phenomenal album. It's a phenomenal Australian. Although they live in LA, it's a phenomenal Australian album. When we were here to get it played on the radio, Triple M wouldn't play it, and I don't give a fuck if I mention them or not. Triple M wouldn't play it, but what they did is they wouldn't play the song, but they'd interview Toby and Gary on the homegrown section. This is homegrown. This is Australian music. This is what it's for. They only interviewed them and played the song in the background. They wouldn't play the whole song. Yep. That's not cool. What is going on in this country?
Nothing good.
Absolutely preaching to the converted.
Oh, we just want to be on Triple J. I said, no, you don't. Don't even worry about it. Don't even focus on it. Don't worry about it. Let's get you on college radio in America. Then you'll be a fucking superstar. Don't worry about it here. And unfortunately, that's why we work overseas, because it's just not cool what's going on here. If anyone really thinks they support Australian music on the radio, they really don't. So you got to come up with it elsewhere.
Do you have a relationship with the Lazies? Have I seen that somewhere?
Yeah, we did Tropical Hazards with them in the early days. Yeah.
And it's like, fuck, that pissed me off. I mean, hang on, it didn't piss me off. They did what they had to do. I respect it. But it pisses me off that we can't keep a band like that in Australia. It really fucking grinds my gears.
Look, at the end of the day, you're looking at a population of 25, 26 million, whatever it is. And then you go and look at Germany where there's 85 million people. So it's all mass. I mean, we can have a hit overseas that makes serious money for a band. And that's why they're overseas, because of the population. And when you have closed-minded attitudes like the radio I was just talking about, I mean, I've been watching, and don't get me wrong, there's some fabulous people in this industry here that are doing fabulous things. There's absolutely no doubt. But there is a certain cross-section that are really insular, and they think that they're the mafia here, and they think that they're doing everything right. They're actually not. They keep setting it back. I mean, I watch these blogs coming through. Do you watch those blogs? I'm not going to name them, but every day there's another one. And I do like the Music Network. I think Jake and all those guys are fantastic. They're on the edge of what's going on. But you read some of these other things, and are you kidding? I am so bored with it. They talk about the same shit. They hash the same shit. It's obvious that the majors are paying them to put things up there. And so, come on, call it for what it is. And it's boring. It is boring. Go and spend a month or two in LA or London, and you'll really see a vibrant scene of what's going on. So anyway, look, it's not an easy business. It's a hard business, but this is where we are today. We've built it overseas, And COVID has made us re-look at Australia. COVID has made us increase our Australian roster. There's absolutely no doubt. And there's some, awesome bands that have come on there. You had them on Shotgun Mistress and Stone Trip. I'm looking at Ashen Moon. I'm looking at the thing, Mark of Cain. All these great.
Oh no, I saw Mark of Cain. Fuck yeah.
We did Battle Sick last year. And there's some really Mercy Kills. There's some really great Aussie bands, and I apologize if I've forgotten everyone. Obviously, I can't mention everyone. Vendettas, thank you, Vendettas. There's some really cool rock and roll that's going on out there, and I'm excited to take it to the world and really give it a go and see where it lands.
Beautiful. I'm going to quickly jump in, Nikki. Just let me quickly jump in here. We're getting a few comments coming through tonight, so this is awesome to see the interaction. So thanks you all for jumping in. Here's probably a friend of yours here. Jordan Adam has gone, look at that beautiful bald head. Before when he
I don't know him, but by the look of his photo, he's equally as handsome as I am.
Yeah, there we go. Then we got Nudes is a regular of ours saying hi, and then we also Kim. I believe you know Kim pretty well.
Yeah, so, Kim's great. Kim's sort of our eyes and ears down in Melbourne. And Kim's great. She brought me Stone Trip. And it's a true story what happened with Stone Trip. When it first came across my desk, you got to appreciate the fact we get our fastest growing department has been our A&R department. So we get about 300 demos a week from across the world. Yep. And I don't want to be one of these labels where they can't contact you. I don't want to be one of these labels where you're up yourself and you don't reply back to bands. Even if the music isn't what we're looking for, I still want to go back to the band or one of the staff will go back to the band and go, look, this isn't right for us at the moment. However, keep doing what you're doing. You never know. So Kim, so I'm hearing all these different bands, and Stone Trip came across and I listened to it. And I listen to everything because I like to listen to things in the cars or on my stereo or on my phone or, iPods, AirPods. And I listened to it and it was okay. It was okay. I didn't think twice about it after I heard it. But then Kim said to me, no, you need to go back and listen to it properly. And so I did. And so I cleared my desk because I'm always doing 1,000 fucking things at once. So I cleared my desk and I listened to Stone Trip again. I went, actually, she's right. There is something here. So we ended up signing that. And that was 100% because of Kim. And they're great boys. I mean, this is the thing. And I'll shoot across a whole lot of different subjects. So rein me in when you want to. But this is the thing. There is so many great bands out there that deserve to let the masses hear their music. Now, to sign a band, even if you're this is where people get it wrong. To sign a band just to do distribution costs money. You've got wages, you've got press releases, you've got digital marketing people, you've got this, you got that, you got this, you got that. So there's an intrinsic value to signing a band. So you can't fucking sign everybody. I wish I could. And we've got, 360 bands now across the roster, and I reckon we'll end up, to be perfectly honest, with probably 1,000 bands by the time I'm finished this across maybe 20 labels. And we're at 10 labels at the moment. So my point being, when you do hear something, I've got quite a high bar, but when you do hear something that really resonates with you and it's genuine and it's authentic, you go, you know what? I need to help these guys. And I need to do what I do and take them to the world. That's what I'm here. And I'm very passionate about that. I'm very passionate. And my guys say to me all the time, the staff, and we've got a lot of people, there's 75 to 80 people working for us across the world now. Yeah. And they say to me, you what is your criteria of signing people? We talk about this. And I go, look, it's like going to blackjack and you sit at the casino and instead of putting $1,000 on 16 red, you spread your chips out across. And yes, LA Guns, that sold its head off, right? Yep. That's the LA Guns album. So that when you purchase an album or you pay in advance for a band like LA Guns, we own the masters to this, for example. When I paid that money and got delivered an album, I knew I'd make my money back and we'd continue, mate. That's not the issue. Same with Vanilla Fudge and The Answer and Jefferson Starship and all those bigger bands. Absolutely no. Dizzy Reed's from Guns N' Roses. We've got 3 members of Guns N' Roses on the label, so you know that their stuff's going to sell. But then there's the middle range bands that could be the next big thing. Ghost of Sunset, or I'm looking at the thing here, the Crooks, or any of the. We've got a really, really good amount of bands out of the UK now, and it could be Scuttlers, it could be Dirty Laces, Callow, it could be any of those bands. Really great bands. But then's my favourite. Then there's the third level, and that's and I'm not saying levels as in height. It's next. Then there's my favourite. They're the bands that I sign because I love them. All the staff love them, and we don't give a fuck if it makes money or not. We don't set this up this isn't about money. This is about creativity. We've done this to create something. Money to survive is a byproduct, to pay your wages and to produce this and make that, etc. So this is about passion and creativity. But then on that level, this is what drives me every day. The Nick Barkers. I mean, I fucking love Nick, and we just got his whole back catalogue with the Reptiles, and they're about to go out. We'll have to do a gig in Melbourne together. Hopefully we'll get one of our bands to open up on it.
Nice.
But, you know, Nick Barker, and then you've got Stuart Cunningham, who was Asteroid B612, that is just about to come out with a new album for Leadfinger, and the Yes Men and Proton Energy Pills. And then you have, like what we said, Mark of Cain, or Steve Kilby, or Johnny Casino, which was Asteroid B612. We've got his whole back catalogue. People don't know we've got all this stuff, and they're the ones that I love because they're love projects. You just want to. You feel honoured. I feel honoured to see the Golden Robot. I mean, I was listening to Nick in the early '90s, and now to see it up on Spotify or iTunes, whatever, or a physical product, to have Golden Robot Records, it's like, oh my god, this is unbelievable. So I still get those moments that I'm purely blown away by what we're able to achieve. So if I can then take all that and then go and sign a band like Stone Trip or whoever that have been grinding the gears for years and they need a leg up, fuck, I'm stoked.
Yep.
So this is really interesting, and you've kind of just answered one of the questions I had for you. Over the course of Andrew and I doing our Tuesday night chats, we have spoken to Cicada Stone, we've spoken to the Vendettas, we've spoken to Stone Trip, we've spoken to Shotgun Mistress. We're not intentionally targeting your bands. It just happens that way because that's what we also are passionate about. And one thing every single fucking one of those bands has said is how much they appreciate and feel valued and supported by you and Golden Robot Records. They're incredibly appreciative and loyal to what you do for them. And off air, we had a little bit of a discussion. And I think one of the things I wanted to highlight is the difference between you and maybe a distributor is that extra passion and that extra effort that you put in. You just don't take the cash and go. You actually invest in them. Would that be a fair comment?
100%. Look, we all need distributors, but our distributors that work for us do a lot for us overseas. The distributors are the one they're the ones, they're teams behind the distribution channels that we have in America or Europe or Japan, etc. They're the ones that are hitting up Spotify for the playlists. They're the ones that are hitting up iTunes, etc., etc. We have our own contacts as well, but they're the ones that are really going behind the scenes for us. So yes, it's all distribution, marketing, PR, etc. That absolutely is an intrinsic part of what's going on. But you need that passion. You need to be able to get behind it. You need to be able to get behind the bands, and you need to be able to fall in love with what the bands are doing. And I've got to say, I work with people all around the world every single day, and I work with some great managers here in Australia. I work with some really good people that they're just as passionate as I am. They're just as they believe in what they're doing. Like I deal with, the Stevie Bars, who's Ella Fence's manager. John Watson I speak to quite a lot. We don't have any of his bands, but he's just a good sounding board, and the door's always open. Or Greg Donovan, Scott Crawford, who we work with Rose Tattoo, etc. We used to work with Palace the King. These are good people. And Horsehead, and it doesn't mean that we all have to see eye to eye. We can argue, but I respect them, and I respect what they do, and hopefully they respect what we do, because we all need each other. So there's plenty of people out there in Australia that have that kind of passion and that kind of drive for it. And I think at the end of the day, what's missing here is, I suppose what's missing around the world, is that everyone needs to believe in rock and roll again. People are too quick to jump on that bandwagon that it's dead. And, you know, I could literally sit here for an hour on every single one of our bands and talk about those bands. And that's what it's all about for me. It's about rock and roll isn't dead. It's not dead. I'm doing it every single day. I'm employing people every single day to work on rock and roll. So how is it dead? How's it gone away? And, you know, so that does my head in when people are like that. Say that.
A question for you, Mark, if I may. Oh, sorry, Andrew, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I just want to quickly, I'm getting a few questions from Scott Crawford in particular, so I'm going to try and paraphrase this a little bit for you there, buddy. So I'm not going to pull anyone up in particular, but it's just for Scott Crawford, I'm trying to paraphrase your questions here a little bit. Just that he's asking, like, because you've got so many bands, do you ever feel like you're getting a little bit, like, how do you tier out, you know, sort of prioritizing the resources, and do you ever get spread too thin, that kind of stuff with so much going on?
Who's asking that?
Scott Crawford was asking a question along those lines. So I was asking basically.
I just mentioned Scott.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, no, he's got a few questions in here. There's a lot.
Scott will always have a few questions from me. There's absolutely no doubt. We have a beautiful love-hate relationship. So no, he's a good guy. He's a good guy, Scott.
You literally just referenced your bounce off him. It's amazing.
I just did. What did Scott ask?
He was asking, there's a few questions in here, but I'll just go with the one that I think is like tying into what we've got here. So one is, what's your favorite artist you broke across the last 3 years? Another one is sort of like just how you spread your resources, just generally how you spread your resources. Because you mentioned before, well over 100 bands before on your roster, and you want to get to 1,000, you were saying before.
Well over 350 bands.
Sorry, yeah, 350. And so if you've got that many, how do you what's your favorite so far you've broken? But then also, how do you sort of dedicate the resources that you do have on hand, because you're employing how many people across the world? How do you sort of spread that out to make it? Do you focus or spread it out a bit?
And so let's preface it with this. Let's go back a step.
Yep.
That during COVID, when people were laying people off and closing their doors, et cetera, I was very proud of the fact that my staff never had to worry 1 week that they weren't going to get paid. And every single week they got their money in their account, like they do every week. But that was a particularly hard year that year.
Yeah.
So I was very happy with that. So what we had to do is, you're right. You can't go and spend $100,000 on each band. Sony's not going to do that. So you have to be very careful with where you spend things, and you have to be very careful with how you do things. And one of the ways that we've been able to survive is, I've got a really good marketing department. I've got a really good digital marketing department. I've got a really good PR department that works for us directly. So I get a lot of bang for the buck. So if we put out 20 press releases a week, or 30 press releases a week, or whatever it is across the world, the way that we do it is we'll put one out in Australia, we'll put one out in America, we'll put one out in Europe, we'll put one out in Japan, et cetera, et cetera. The intrinsic cost of that is the same whether I'm doing one or I'm doing 100 press releases. So I've been able to put the business in a position where, as it grows, it's not such a burden on us. Where you choose to spend the money, well, that comes down to the contract. In the very early days, and I referenced this before. Look, in the very early days, we didn't do everything right. We were learning on the hop. There's no fucking rock and roll. How to run a label for dummies. You just gotta,
Mark, you said you've been going since 2015. You've been doing it fucking 6 years. What you've done in 6 years, mind-blowing. Mind-blowing.
It's been great. And you make mistakes. You get to a point where not everything has gone to plan. But what's important as a company is you learn from that. It's important to be able to, and I know for a fact, and people can scoff and people can laugh and et cetera, I know for a fact that 90% of the bands, 95% of the bands that are with us have got a better leg up to get more streams on Spotify, more people to the show, more interest, because they've got a team behind them that are pushing from all these angles. I'll give you an example. We went and we started up a new production division about 6 months ago. And we've now started producing. Instead of putting a tile up on social media promoting an album, because we promote everything, we're now doing little videos. So the cost of those videos isn't to the band, it's to us. So where we save money for the bands is by doing everything in-house. I've now got, well, we have had for a while, but we've got a second person. So we can do our own artwork, we can do our own legals, we can do our own PR, we can do our own marketing. So that's how we keep it surviving. But to answer the other two questions, that is a hard thing. If you're sitting there and you've promised a band $20,000 and you want to spend $20,000 on them US across the world, and you've had really good bang for your buck for $5,000 or $6,000, $7,000, do you really want to go and spend that other $13,000 so they owe it to you? So in the old days, we'd handle it differently, but these days we would sit down and go, right, this is where we are. What do you feel we want to do? Where have we not achieved what we wanted to achieve? And then we will spend that money accordingly and work with the band. And we've been doing that probably the last year, 2 years. And that works much better than getting to an end of a contract and they saying to you, oh, well, there was another $15,000. You didn't spend it on us. It goes, and it was like, well, yeah, I don't want to waste money either. It's not going on a tree out the back there. We've got to be able to spend that money accordingly. And I think we've got much better at that as a label to be able to cost effectively spend our money. And a lot of that cost within house has saved us a lot of money, which in turn saves the band money so they don't owe the label.
Yep.
So, Mark, a question that I'm sure a lot of people, if they're not watching live, if they watch this later on, are definitely going to be interested in. What gets you or your group's attention? Like, anyone can send you an EPK and they can send you a reason why you should listen to them. But at the end of the day, what is going to make you take notice of them? Is it the sound? Is it the hard work they put in with gigs? Is it their promotion? What makes you go, you know what, you're fucking worthy of a shot?
Something that's authentic.
Yep.
It's got to be authentic. It's got to be, it's got to be authentic. It's got to be genuine. It's got to be something that's real and that kicks a note inside your head and you go, ooh, I love that. I remember listening to a song. We never signed them for a whole lot of reasons, but it's come back around again. Quinn from Black Skeleton, ex-Def Prime, and Kim brought Kim's our eyes and ears in Melbourne. She's great. Yep. But he had a song. What was the name of the song? She screamed. If she's watching this, she's screaming it at the screen.
Come on, Kim,
put it up there. Put it up there. He had a song, for example, that came out. We ended up not doing the deal with him for a whole lot of reasons, but that, as I said, that's come back around. Hopefully we will. But he had a song under Black Skeleton. I can't remember what it was called, but that song,
Out of Our Minds, is that the one?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Did Kim just send that?
Kim just brought it up. Yeah, Kim just brought it up.
Yeah. Thanks, Kim. There's an example of a song that I'm working and I go, fuck, this is unbelievable. Wow, I love this song. I need to get this song out to the world. And it didn't happen, but that's absolutely fine. At the end of the day, it's got to grab you. It's got to grab your attention. It's got to grab who you are inside. I listen to songs and get goosebumps because I'm so passionate about what's going on. And I love that. As I said, everything starts and ends with Led Zeppelin with me. So, how many, look, I could listen to Zepp 4 and all the other albums every day, but there's never going to be another Led Zeppelin 3. There's never going to be another Houses of the Holy. So you're always looking. It's like if you're a gamer, all you do is wait every year for game of Call of Duty, the next Call of Duty.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to be waiting around for another Led Zeppelin, but you're going to get things that are going to stir you up your emotions, stir up your passion, stir up who you are and how you're doing things. And I find that I want to take that out to the world. Yep. And that's it. And I'm really comfortable when people might not agree with what we do. People might think we're full of shit and people might not like what we do. I really don't give a fuck because I'm really comfortable with where I am and what we do and how we do it and what we're doing for our bands. And, you know, when people drop the jealousy and drop the bullshit, they're actually not too bad of people. You know, they get a bit of alcohol in them and they tell the truth. They're not too bad. And, you know, there's haters out there. There's haters out there and there's people that always have a comment that's negative. That's just the Australian way. But it doesn't worry me. We just keep moving forward and keep doing what we're doing. And, you know, at the end of the day, we'll anyone that thinks it's not the right way to go and you don't need a label, you don't need, well, you know, good luck to you.
On the flip side, Mark, in opposite to that question, what's something that would turn you off? If someone was to send through a demo or a link or whatever, what's something that would make you go, appreciate your time, but not for me? No, thank you. And this is basically a learning curve for anyone who might be watching this, what not to do.
I think you've got to have a certain level. There's got to be a fine line between humility and saying that we're the next big thing. I mean, we had a band. I mean, we've got some fucking great stories. I mean, we were on a Zoom the other day with Corey. What was his name? Corey. He's got that album out, and it was voted the worst album of all time. What was it? He was a child star, right? He was a child star. Corey Feldman.
Oh, Feldman. Yes. Okay. Yep.
We were on with him the other day talking to him about an album. It was more about what's this guy going to be like to work with. And I thought, if he's taking the piss of his own music, then I understand it. But he was actually really serious about his music, which is fine. But it ended up not being for us. So I've had all these incredible circumstances and these incredible different things that I've dealt with overseas. But I had one band that sent us an email and said that they were the next Nirvana and they were the next big thing and they were this and they were that. And we listened to it and we've got some good people. Jagger, my son's working for us with Riot Records. And he's got an incredible band called The Kids and he's just recorded an unbelievable solo album. And I really trust his ear. He's got a great ear. And then Scott in America's got another great ear. And there's a few others as well. And we were all sitting there going, have we missed something? I mean, if you're really raving about it, have we missed something here? And it wasn't as good as they made it out to be. Now, let me just say, and that's cool. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be the best. Sometimes you can hear a song and it might not be the best thing in the world, but you can hear something there. There's something there to work with. There's something there. So, you know, I think you've got to have some humility and you've got to be genuine.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
You got to have some humility. You got to be genuine with it, and you got to be able to approach the record company. And don't approach a record company via Facebook and Instagram. There's a tip, right?
Yep.
There's a tip, and we always say, you know, go to the website and go through the proper channels. That's the way. Because it doesn't seem as real. It just seems like you're having a stab at it. Go through the proper channels is probably the best way to do it. And because that way it doesn't get lost as well. We have a proper system where, you know, everything gets correlated into a spreadsheet. And we know what we're doing. And if we're saying yes or we're saying no, et cetera, et cetera. So that would be my advice on that for sure.
Cool.
So I decided to play a game. You know, I just was looking around my personal collection going, you have so many bands that I personally love, and that's just Little Dumb Nicky in Melbourne. The thing that trips me out about you is the balance between the bigger international stuff and the focus on the local stuff. You referenced COVID before. What I'm really interested in is, as someone who was in Melbourne who was in lockdown for an extremely fucking long time, it really did make me go back to the records, back to CDs, not just Spotify, back to my old collection, going through my memories and what the Horsehead. I've got a signed Horsehead CD. That means the world to me. How much over COVID did it hurt, say, sales in music? Like, if you don't have a band out there gigging, can they make up for that in their social media presence? If they have a way of connecting with the fans and still putting out music, it doesn't mean they're dead because they're not gigging, right?
Look, I think 2020 was a good year. Our sales were really good, you know, and I think that at the end of the day, we had some really top sales across 2020. And I'm going to answer the question in a couple of ways. And it sort of goes back to Scott's question before, you know, what bands did we break in the last 3 years? And to me, it's not about, look, as I said to you before, I've got bands on there like Races Collide, Scuttlers, all these bands, the Crooks in the UK are about to take off because Liam Gallagher has just fallen in love with them. And they're about to be the next big thing. And I made a really good decision because they asked us for money for the studio. And I said, all right, we'll pay for the next 3 or 4 tracks and have the masters. And I think that they're about to take off. So it's going to be amazing. Yeah. And they're lovely, lovely guys. And they've got a great manager over there. Cool. So I think when you say the bands that we're breaking, it's all a narrative. It's not an overnight thing. I don't believe it's an overnight thing in this business. If you take a band like the Crooks or any of those UK bands, for example, it's a singles market. So if you break it down to, you know, even Gilby's CD or LA Guns, for example, I've had that for 2.5 years now, this album. And we decided to do 4 singles before we dropped the album. And that is so it's not an overnight success. It's a narrative. It's telling the story. It's one single, doing the press on it, doing the interviews on it, doing what you need to do to promote the single, whether it's a video or et cetera, et cetera. And then that leads into the next one, not 3 weeks later or 4 weeks later, but maybe 8 to 12 weeks later. And that gives our teams behind the scenes to then go and talk to Spotify, talk about the marketing plan, talk about what we did with that single, talk about the hits we got on that single, and then bring that forward to the next single. So it's a narrative. So you're really breaking a band, to use Scott's word, you're breaking a band over 12 months, over 24 months these days. It's not an overnight success. I won't say what it is, but I know with the LA Guns album, that we sold more vinyl. And so let's take a step back. The first single came out in February last year. The last single and the album dropped on November 13, 2020. And I know one, and with all the bullshit between the two bands going back and forwards that I don't get involved in, and all the lawsuits and everything that's settled now, at the end of the day, that outsold any, except for the first album, I'll say that, except for the first album, which sold about 1.5 million copies to 2 million copies. In its day, it sold more now. This was their best-selling album they've ever had, ever.
Wow.
And that's on CD, etc. So that's breaking. It was a new band. Yes, it's got the name behind it, but over 12 months, we told the narrative and we broke it across there. And you try and do that with all these young bands, especially our bands in Europe, UK, and America. You're doing the same thing with those, and you're hoping you're going to wake up one day and they're going to be number one. But you look at what we've done, for example, with Shotgun Mistress, how many number ones that they ended up achieving on the air charts.
Absolutely.
And then you look at Cicada Stone. So you could use Scott's word, they're breaking. They're definitely breaking. Each single doing better than the next one. There's Cicada Stone. So, you're breaking them. I don't think anything anymore is going to be an overnight success. I really don't think it is. I think it's a marathon. You've got to stick to your guns. You've got to work with the band. You've got to work socials. You've got to work the digital side of things. You've got to work distro. You've got to work PR. It's just a long-term play, and you will break a band. And if the band goes back to what we said is authentic and it's real, it's going to happen anyway because their music's going to resonate with the public.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And we've been doing this, mate, for 12 to 13 months with really no touring. Imagine when touring kicks back in.
You're going to be happy with that.
Totally.
And funny, because some of the international bands you represent have been over here, and that's amazing. And I can't wait till that actually comes back, until the borders open and it happens. I might be dreaming there for a while, but
no, there's a lot. We've dabbled down into touring, and we've got this over the next 12 months. We're bringing out about 9 to 10 of our bands, which will be great because then the Aussie bands that are here can jump on those tours.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's
And vice versa. And vice versa. They can go over there. And you know what? I have to say, people can say whatever they want, however they want to do it. But you look at when we sign a band, you look at the vibe, how they all promote each other. Wild Street in New York is promoting Shotgun Mistress. Ghosts of Sunset LA are supporting and Cicada Stone. And they're saying, welcome to the family. It is like a vibe. It's like a family. I'm really proud of that. I think that that's super cool.
You know, Jordan had in before, Jordan from Silverback, and the cool thing about him is when he brings an international out, he gives the local the support slot. And something that's been a topic of conversation amongst our circles lately is there's all these tours coming out with all these artists that were from the 80s, 90s, noughties, which is great, but they're all secular and there's no up-and-comers supporting these bands on these bills. And they're great bands that we all grew up with and we fucking love, but there's no new blood. There's no exposure for the newies. And to cross-pollinate someone who's established or more successful and have a support that's up and coming, equally as good, just unknown, I think it's a beautiful thing, and good on you if you can do that. That's amazing.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that, you know, each of us is a piece to the puzzle, right? Whether it's saying, you know, I love Nick Barker, we want his whole back catalogue, which we've got. Whether it's Rose Tattoo going out and doing a show with Nick Barker and the Reptiles. Whether it's us taking the Velvet Starlings from LA to Europe, whatever it is, we're all a piece to this puzzle. And you've got to work with like-minded people, and you've got to work with people that are good, and you've got to work with people that believe in what you're doing. And there's got to be some trust and honesty and transparency there. And you just, you know, you pick that, and at the end of the day, the bands come out the winner. Yeah. And that's the rock and roll. It used to be a catchphrase of mine all the time. Rock and roll is always the winner. And that's what it's all about. And most of the managers in Australia and LA and the people that we work with do it because they love music. And they're not necessarily going to live in mansions. Well, I have sat with Doc McGee, and that was very interesting. That was an interesting 3 hours.
Do we need another hour for that, just to delve into that?
There's a picture of me and him. He pulled out his first $1 million he ever made from Bon Jovi and Kiss. That was, in fact, the guy that I was in the office with discovered Bon Jovi. And Doc was manager of Bon Jovi. But they both had different stories. But this one knew what this one was bullshitting about, and this one knew what this one was bullshitting about. So it was quite an interesting. It was quite an interesting. It was quite an interesting vibe. But look, at the end of the day, what we're doing and what I'm proud of most, it's very simple. It's really simple. And I'm sorry to keep using Nick as a reference, and I could talk about 1,000 bands, but if you use Nick as a reference, Nick made an album a couple of years ago with a band called The Heartache State.
And I fucking love it, just quietly across it.
I absolutely love it. And unfortunately, they're not together anymore, but Nick did 2 hours with The Heartache State. And I remember listening to the first album, and I rang him. And it took me 3 months to let him understand that I wanted to sign him and how much I loved him as a songwriter. I think he's up there with Paul Kelly and Richard Clapton and all those guys, right?
Yeah.
And I convinced him to come on the label, and we did this album together. And about 2 years ago, 18 months ago, or whatever it was, I got a letter from somebody that we lost Nikki.
Yeah, she's on Frozen. I'm pretty sure she can still hear us, but she'll come back in.
Yeah, she'll come back in. And at the end of the day, I got a letter from somebody it was an email that basically said they were having the worst fucking day of their lives, and they were really thinking about some horrible stuff. And they played that album, and it snapped them out of the mood. And I just took that to heart so much, because I know 100% that album wouldn't exist if we didn't do what we do. That Heartache State album wouldn't exist today. And that person listened to that album, and it turned them from having a shocking bad day with tragic consequences into an incredible day. And mate, fucking our job is done. If that's what we're bringing to people, one song at a time, I mean, what more can you ask for?
Yep. No, those moments are goosebumps moments. They really are special when you run across those ones. We've had a couple in our time as well, and it's always really validating to have that. There's nothing more important than that for me. But yeah,
that's what it comes down to, man. It comes down to, you know, if you change one person's life or you've made one person's life better, or, you know, not everyone has to love what you're doing, but if that one person really touches with you and it resonates with them, mate, I think that's just the best byproduct of all time.
Yeah.
That you're putting music out into the world that is making a difference. And look, some of our music we're putting out isn't making a difference at all. But that's just the way that it is. But
yeah,
ultimately, some of the music we're putting out, and hopefully most of the music we're putting out, is making a difference, one song at a time. And I'm extremely proud of that.
Well, you should be. You've done a great thing so far, and looking forward to what's coming up next for you guys. Well, big congrats. We haven't even touched on this, man. We could go for another 3 hours, I reckon. But
this is the less you've ever spoken. Both of you have said absolutely. This is the least amount you've spoken in anything I've ever watched.
Yeah, because we love listening to you, mate. You tell great stories. No, it's awesome listening to someone else with as much passion as we have for a change. No, the what I love about it all is just the passion on display, and I think that you deserve a lot of credit for that. But also, like I said, we haven't even touched on the fact you just signed Filter as well. So congratulations on that one. That's massive for you guys too.
Filter's been a huge signing. Yeah, I have to say, and I was after Richard for 4 years.
Wow. Oh, really?
Yeah. We were after him for 4 years. It was so incredible to get him finally. I remember the first meeting. In fact, it was like 3 managers ago. It was an incredible signing. I remember being at a Jewish deli in LA at Cantor's, talking to the original manager, and to finally get him. His manager now, Mark Pollack, is fucking an amazing manager. Wow, talk about amazing managers. Some of these guys in LA I just love working with. He's also the Delta Rigs manager.
Okay, cool. Yep.
And some big Canadian bands like the Beaches, etc., etc. But Mark and I get on very, very well. And if you get on well with the management, it's much easier to get the band signed. But I'm very proud of that. I've had some incredible feedback from signing Richard. And even in Australia, he's not as big as he is in America and Europe. It's huge in America.
Yeah.
Huge in America.
No, they were one of the big ones out of that whole new metal movement that came through as well. They were doing great things for a long time. So I've always had to
see what I'm about to announce.
Okay, now I'm keen.
Are you getting some exclusive, Mark? I'm listening. I'm inching in.
This will, as I say, there's always the naysayers and the haters. Even the haters are going to go, okay, this is fucking awesome.
Okay, cool.
And it's good for Aussie music. It's good. We're at the end of the day, yes, we're an international label, and we do most of our business OS, but we're still Aussies. We're still an Aussie label that's taking it to the world. So it's good from that. It's good from that point of view.
Yeah. No, like I said, you deserve a lot of credit for what you've done so far. We've had a lot of comments coming through. We haven't gotten to everyone, and I apologise for that. A lot of it's just been sort of jumping in. People are saying that they're loving what's going on tonight, and just generally, agreeing with all the bands you've been talking about and stuff as well. A good regular of ours on YouTube a while back said Carlton are going to need a new coach. Wonder if we get him to coach them back into shape to look within and find their passion. So there's you're rubbing off on some people in that regard there.
In the old days of the Iron Duke, from 97 to 99, I used to have this called my 2 cent opinion, and I'd put that in Drum Media. Remember Drum Media?
Yeah.
The paper. What was John's manager? John, what was he? John Tingwell. Bud Tingwell. He was the editor then. Yeah, I used to write my opinion, and I've got to say, I'm so disillusioned with some of these Aussie blogs and whatever you call them that come out because they just report on. If I hear about Tones and I again, I'll throw myself off. It's I don't need to hear about it all the time. Or the same stuff. But no, I don't have a problem with her. I'm just saying I don't need to hear about it every day. Good luck with her success. I mean, it's been unbelievable. But let's talk about some up and coming bands, or let's talk about something that can really change the industry. But I think at the end of the day, I completely lost what I was going to say then. The was this what we're saying? The ING.
You're talking about and in two cents.
I'm so disillusioned with fucking everything. They were calling me the Anthony Robbins of the rock world back in '97. But I always that's it. But that's why I'm doing the robot rants because it was. I spoke about this the other day on a podcast, and I said, I must have counted, I don't know, 700 reviews and blogs or whatever that we signed filter. About 700 of them around the world. 3 of them were from Australia. It's like, come on. So I do my own now. We'll just do our own, and that's it. And put it out there. So I don't care.
That was on my list of things to talk about. So anyone that's watching tonight, we're going to put some links up where you can find a little bit more about these guys and who they promote and what they do. You need to check out Robot Rants. It's a fucking podcast. You definitely need to watch this. Thanks for the entertainment, Mark.
There's some big ones coming up, let me tell you. And I don't want to get on there and I don't want to get on there and abuse anyone, or I'm not like that. I'm not going to get on there and be too controversial, but I'm going to get on there and, like we did last week, and go, what's going on with these trolls and these keyboard warriors? Like, man, if you're not interested in something or you're negative, just fuck off. We're not interested. Go and talk about your own stuff. It's like, and that came from the filter stuff, and that came from LA Guns. People were finding negative things in celebrations. If you're finding negative things in something to celebrate, it's like, man, go and do something else.
Need a hobby if you can do that. Need a hobby if you're going to do that.
We're going to do part 2.
Yeah, we should. We definitely should.
I can honestly tell you, no shit, Mark, I had a list this long of things I wanted to talk to you about, and some you've just covered naturally in conversation. And I can tell you there's probably about 20 questions we haven't even fucking talked about. Yeah. I think we might need to do a part 2. I think I might be down for this.
I'm very keen for that if you are. So,
of course, we'll do it. We'll do a part 2 in a couple of months' time. But you can hit me with a couple more before my old back gives away. And I tell you what, the COVID shot's been all right. I haven't felt too bad. I am a little bit. You get the chills.
Yeah.
And you start to feel like you got the flu, but because I've been rambling on so much, I've heated myself up.
Oh, one more, because Kim and Alexi are both jumping in here saying, what was your big announcement? I think you were just teasing a big announcement. You're not going to give it away just yet. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I've been working on a band for 2 years now, and from what I heard yesterday, that they're about to sign. Well, it's there to sign, and if we get them, then that's another level for us again. So I'm really excited. I mean, we haven't even announced bands like Hardcore Superstar. You talk about Silverback. They brought them out a while ago. Silverback are great people. There's a lot of really interesting stuff. Like Jizzy Pearls, who sings for Quiet Riot. He's just released a song, his Love Hate brand. Dave Coots. Do you remember years ago when Scott Weiland went into rehab? They started a band. All the basically Stone Temple Pilots started another band called Talk Show.
Yeah, right.
Well, Dave was Talk Show. Dave sang for Talk Show.
Okay, there we go.
And we've just signed him for an album, mate. His stuff is unbelievable.
Awesome. He's
an incredible songwriter. So there's a whole. You really got to go into our. I'm about to do something with Tony Franklin, who is John Sykes' right hand bass player from Blue Murder, and He's playing in every band. So I implore people to go and look at our roster and go through it and have a look at some of the stuff there.
Exactly.
That's really
go
super
through
cool.
it.
No,
we haven't even scratched on that.
Go on, Nikki. Sorry, go on. It's all good.
Just talking about Mark's roster, I mean, I know about the bands I know about, but when I actually looked at what you've put out, my head just fucking exploded. Like, as I said, Little Caesar, I fucking love that band. I was quite excited to see them. There's a million on there. Like, we're going to chuck the links up. Go and check them out. Not just the Aussie stuff, the international stuff as well. And we're well over time, but I really need to say a massive thank you to Mark. I'm really thrilled to talk to you. I was quite excited when the opportunity came up. I'm like, yes. What you do is incredible. I haven't even fucking touched the surface of the shit I really wanted to get into, but I didn't need to because you're so amazing.
We'll do a part two. And I've got to say, I couldn't do this without the incredible staff I work with. I've got some incredible staff that have. Nadia's been with me. She's run Social Family Records and overseas a lot. She's been with me for years. Pip and Maddie and Scott and Lee and Jagger and all the different people. Even Kim, who work, is our eyes and ears in Melbourne. There's like 80 people, but out of that, there's like 25 of us that are really close.
Yeah.
That I love working with, and throughout all the labels. We've got Scratches, which is P Smurf, and there's other people that you'd love to talk to, like part of our Die Laughing Records crew in America and Coffin and Bolt. There's this great crew of people we work with that are equally as passionate as I am about rock and roll, and I couldn't do this without all of them. They're amazing.
Beautiful. And that's the stuff we didn't even get to. I wanted to delve into those other 10 divisions. That's part 2 because I've got lots of questions for that as well. But no, honestly, flu jab and all, or COVID jab and all, really, really appreciate that you took the time to speak to us. Like, it's genuinely been an eye-opener. I hope that any band watching this tonight gets an insight of things that are going to get you ticks, things to maybe avoid. And just for the general music-loving public out there, have a look at these guys and their roster and what they've got on it, because they support all the local bands that we fucking love and adore and we promote here at the Hard Rock Show and more. Check it out.
And you know what we're going to do? And I've just thought of this on the fly, and I haven't even asked you guys if you're happy with this, but what we should do as the three of us, and maybe get a few other people involved like Kim, we should absolutely start up a collective where bands that are starting that have got questions that might not necessarily are ready to be signed, but if they've got questions, we should start up some sort of collective, some sort of forum where we answer those questions once a week or once every few days. I'm really happy to commit time to that. So, a young band that's coming through the ranks, they might ask me 3 questions or you 3 questions because you guys are equally as passionate and we come from different areas as far as our knowledge, but together it's one big knowledge pool. Maybe we should start something up like that to help these young bands not make certain mistakes or give them a leg up to start with to make it easier. We should really look at doing that.
Yeah, no, I agree. That'd be awesome to do.
Well, we'll talk about that off air and put something together.
Yeah. Now, on a random question, I'll throw in one final question, which is a bit of a random one, which I've never had this one put to us before. But Ben, who's a regular of ours, jumped in to say, talking about grinding the gears for years, what suggestions do you have for Andrew and company to go to the next level? THRS deserves more airtime. So there you go. There's a random one that I've never had, and I'm going to take a moment here while I've got you to say, okay, what would you say to that question? I've not even thought about that.
How do you get to the next level, are they asking?
Yeah.
Look, you know what it is with you guys? You guys are you're a cog in the wheel like we are. You're a really important cog in the wheel. I was talking to Andrew from Scars and Guitars the other day. We did a podcast. And, he did a show on Golden Robot alone of 50 songs or 60 songs or something. And I never met the guy, and I emailed him and thanked him. You've been around longer, but you're as an important cog as we all are in the wheel. And at the end of the day, if you're only watching, if there's only 2,000 people following you or 20,000 people following you or 200 people following you, your role, doesn't matter how many people are doing it, your role is still your role. You're such an important part of what we are doing. And we couldn't do it without, I couldn't do what I'm doing without you, and you couldn't do without us, because your music wouldn't be seeing the light of day, so to speak. Or maybe it is, but maybe not as effectively, or however you want to look at it. But we're all a cog in the wheel. Some of the cogs are a little bit bigger than others, but we all help each other turn around. So I don't think it's a matter of taking you to the next level, because as far as I know, you're not doing this to live in a Turak mansion. You're doing this because you fucking love what you do. And whatever happens, happens. So I think for you is you just got to keep doing what you're doing, and make the contacts with people like me to get you not only the Vendettas and the Stone Trips, etc., but get LA Guns on, and get Vanilla Fudge on a Jefferson Starship, which will then get, so that then that helps you grow your audience. That's the way that it works, that we network off each other.
Yeah, no, very good. That is something that we definitely will pursue as well. Now we've got a bit more dialogue going here, which is awesome to have. We're going to be doing that part 2, I think, in the next few months. So if you've got some big announcements coming up, we'll tee something up in the next few months after those announcements, to catch up with things and see how you're all going there. Getting a lot of...
Do one from LA. Would be good to do one.
That'd be awesome.
Amazing.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I've got to get you guys some robot merch.
Yeah,
definitely.
What are you wearing, Andrew? What's that? I can see Shotgun.
An old band called Dead Star Renegade. That one of our guys that used to be on the show a lot, Jimmy, his band was that one, and just thought I'd put something on for a bit of nostalgia tonight. It's a bit hard to see with the way I've got things set up here with the laptop and that. I don't have quite a lengthier shot as I try and keep the audio nearby with the laptop and that. But no, it's just an old school favourite of mine that was one of the first bands that jumped on board with us a long, long time ago. So
do you find sometimes that some music is like a comfy old slipper that you just want to, you know, and you just want to, like, and people, I get shit all the time from people. This is where the negative comments will come in. That I love you too. Like that Unforgettable Fire album. Oh my God. We haven't even talked about what a vinyl head I am. I'm the biggest audio. I love vinyl.
You had a comment before that I totally wanted to jump on. I think it was off air when we were talking, and you talked about some of the pressings you had, and I've been on to get first pressings of certain bands as well. But I have to go. We have to go.
We've gone over time. We've gone way over
time, but it's been good. And the comments have been fantastic. So everyone that's tuned in tonight, thank you so much. Again, the links are in the description for this one to go and check out all of Golden Robot's stuff. They're doing great things. Check out their entire catalogue, both local and overseas stuff too. There's a lot of questions here, which we'll take notes on and bring back for another one later on with Mark and
100%.
Who else we can get as well. But it's been fantastic. And like Nikki said, just echoing here, just saying thank you again for taking the time, especially with you not being 100% today. It's greatly appreciated. I'm sure that a lot of people took a lot out of this tonight. So, yeah, really appreciate your time tonight.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys as well and what you do. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on. And like I said, we will do it all again very, very soon. But I think we will.
Tomorrow. I'm not done yet.
See you next Tuesday.
But yeah, thank you everyone for jumping in tonight. It's been great to see the interaction happening in the comments. Sorry I couldn't get as many up on the screen, but I think that just like everyone else was sitting there going, this is just fantastic to listen to for an hour. So it's been an absolute joy having everyone here, and everyone's been having a really good time watching tonight, judged by the comments here tonight. So thank you everyone for joining us. Thank you to Nikki for making the time once again for doing another interview this week, and thank you to Mark, and best wishes with everything Golden Robot going forward to you guys as well. We look forward to chatting to you very, very soon.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Beautiful. Now we'll do the whole rigmarole. I'll sign off from each platform one at a time. So first of all, we'll say goodbye to Twitter. So see you for now. And then next up, we say goodbye to YouTube for now. So we'll see you again soon, YouTube. And last but not least, Facebook, our largest platform. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you all again very, very soon. Bye-bye for now.